I never believed in ghost stories. Not the kind whispered around campfires. Not the kind traded between truckers at roadside diners. And definitely not the ones about old Route 66. But that was before the night I drove through mile marker 313, that I was 23, fresh out of college, broke, and stupid enough to think I could drive from Texas to California in one stretch without stopping. My old Honda Civic rattled like a tin can, but it was all I had. I figured if I left at dusk, I could make it to Los Angeles by the next evening. The first half of the trip went smooth. Gas stations, country music on the radio, long stretches of desert highway glowing under the moon. But after midnight, my GPS rerouted me off the main interstate. Shortest route, it promised in that cold, robotic voice. That's how I ended up on an abandoned stretch of Route 66. The desert on either side looked endless. Not a single light post, not a single diner sign glowing in the distance. Just black sky and stars that seemed too close, like they were leaning down to watch me. And then the radio, silent for hours, crackled. A woman's voice, faint through the static, whispered, "Don't stop, keep driving." I froze. My hand hovered over the dial, but before I could twist it off, the voice was gone. Just dead air again. I told myself I was tired, that I was imagining things. But something in my gut told me the night was about to get worse. That tea happened around 12:03 a.m. I remember because I glanced at the glowing green numbers on my dashboard right before I saw her. On the side of the road, a woman stood alone, pale, dressed in a torn white gown that looked decades out of style. Barefoot, her long black hair covered most of her face, but I could see her lips move as though she was whispering to herself. At first, I thought maybe she was hurt. Maybe she'd been in an accident. I slowed down, rolled the window an inch, and leaned toward the glass. Her head lifted. Her eyes caught my headlights. They weren't eyes. They were red coals, glowing like embers from a dying fire. I slammed my foot on the gas. The Civic screamed as it picked up speed. My chest hammered. I didn't dare look back. But then, through the rearview mirror, I saw her. Not standing on the road anymore. Not walking. She was in my back seat, crawling across the seats on all fours, spider-like, her limbs bending wrong, her jaw hanging open far wider than it should. And she whispered my name. I never told her my name that I floored the gas. The desert blurred past. My hands clenched the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. Mile marker signs appeared one after another. Then, back to 310 again. I blinked hard. Maybe I misread it. But no. After 312, there it was again. The road was looping, trapping me. The woman in the back seat was gone, but I could still hear her whisper in my ears, crawling inside my skull. You shouldn't have slowed down. That's when I saw them. On the shoulder of the road, half buried in sand and dust, were cars. Dozens of them. Old Chevrolets, rusted trucks, sedans with cracked windshields. Some had their doors still hanging open. Some had luggage inside, faded clothes spilling out, as though the owners had vanished mid-journey. And in the reflection of one windshield, I saw her again. Not standing, not crawling, but smiling. Her teeth were jagged, broken things, stained black as though rotting. And then the radio came back to life, static hissing, and through it, dozens of voices whispered all at once. Another one for the highway. I didn't dare look in the mirror. I didn't want to see her there again. But curiosity, it's poison. I glanced. This time, She wasn't crawling. She was sitting perfectly still in the middle seat, her hands folded politely on her lap, as if she'd been riding with me the entire time. Her head tilted slightly, hair falling away from her face. And I saw her clearly. Her skin was gray and cracked, veins like black rivers running across it. Her eyes were pits of red fire. Her smile stretched far too wide. "Drive," she whispered, though her mouth barely moved. So I drove, faster than I ever had in my life, and no matter how long I drove, the clock stayed frozen at 12:03. The stars didn't move. The desert didn't change. My fuel gauge didn't drop. It was as though time itself had stopped, trapping me on this stretch of road. And every time I passed a mile marker, I swore I saw a shadow standing just beside it. A figure, tall and thin, watching. Sometimes there were 2, sometimes 10. By the time I reached marker 312 again, there were dozens. All of them looked like her AT last. I saw something different. A gas station glowing faintly in the distance. A neon sign flickered above it. I nearly sobbed with relief. I swerved off the highway, pulling into the cracked lot. The station looked abandoned, windows shattered, pumps rusted, but the neon sign glowed. Open. I stepped out of the car, legs trembling. "Hello." I called. No answer, just the buzzing of the neon. I pushed the door open. Inside, the shelves were stocked, but with things decades old. Soda cans with brands I hadn't seen since the 70s. Magazines with yellowed covers dated 1965. And on the counter, a row of keys. Car keys. Hundreds of them, piled together like trophies. The whisper came again, right behind my ear that I spun around. She was standing inches from me, her mouth stretched wide, black saliva dripping from her teeth. I ran Dak in the car. I slammed the door, twisted the key, and prayed it would start. The engine roared to life. I didn't look back at the station. I didn't look at the mile markers. I just drove, faster and faster. The static on the radio grew louder, the voices overlapping, chanting. Another one for the highway, another one, and then silence. The clock changed. 12:04. My car jerked, and suddenly I was back on the interstate. Traffic lights. A diner sign glowing in the distance. My gas tank nearly empty. I pulled over, shaking, trying to breathe. For a moment, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe I'd escaped. Then I looked in the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. But on the glass, smeared in black handprints, were 3 words. "See you soon." It's been 3 years since that night. I sold the Civic, moved to the city, tried to pretend it never happened. But every time I drive at night, the radio still crackles. And through the static, I hear her voice. "Don't stop, keep driving." And I know one day I won't be able to escape, because mile marker 313 is always waiting.